Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dear Nicole Dilemmas. Today I have a special guest, Dr. Julie Fratantoni. She's going to help me answer some questions. We had a little question box on our stories and you guys sent us in your dilemmas. So please like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, we love hearing from you. Dear Nicole Dilemmas is actually one of my favorite formats for this YouTube channel. So yeah, just super grateful you're here and can't wait to get started. Okay, so first up, I feel like dating apps make me feel so ugly and unlovable. I am there because I truly want to meet someone, but I feel like everyone on there is just playing a video game. I'm constantly getting ghosted or stood up by people who are incapable of actually having a conversation or following through with wanting to finally meet someone. Okay, I love this question. I love this question because yes, I love that you said it feels like a video game, because I think the problem is that these apps are designed to keep you on them. They are like video games, and it does become a game to just kind of swipe somebody. I haven't actually used dating apps that much, but maybe 8 years ago when I was using them, I definitely recall, and I don't know if they've changed. I haven't been on a dating app since then, but back then I do remember thinking, I actually don't really care about meeting any of these people. Or what would happen is I would match with somebody, get excited, but then when it actually came to potentially meeting them, I wouldn't want to. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I do. I think this is such a challenge because there's so much information that you miss out on when it's just on an app. So I just think there's a lot of challenges around this. And I feel like in terms of the way that it's affecting mental health, I think you have to have a really strong mindset going into it of being open and almost just having this mindset of like, I'm here to meet people and honestly make friends and see if there's someone that I connect with further. So to just not put so much pressure on it of like, need to find my person, even if you are very ready to find your person. I think going in with the mindset of, yeah, I'm just here to see if like, do I like hanging out with this person, right? Do I feel good about myself? And I know we were talking about this earlier, but just through every little thing to trust the information that you're getting and your intuition, your intuitive response. Your body knows your brain, it knows your nervous system will respond. And so from everything from their photos to the way that they talk to you to all your communication leading up to meeting them, each thing you want to your body to kind of feel like a yes. And if you're feeling a no, so listen to that and pay attention. And
rather than trying to make something fit just because you want it to be. Because that's one thing that people do is you want this particular outcome. So you'll start to change the variables of what things are so that you can get to where you want to be. And that is maybe dating a particular person that you've started to strike a fancy towards. But you actually then ignore what the actual variables are and what this experiment is actually showing you because you want it to fit your hypothesis so badly. I think that's a really good analogy. Okay, I have a different take. I just like get off them completely. I'm such a big believer in the fact that we can meet each other in person. We can meet each other in the real world. Just a little side note, I did go on Riot for 5 minutes when my ex-fiance and I broke up, and I was literally like, this is vile. No offense to anyone on there. I chatted to like 1 or 2 great people for like 5 minutes, but I was literally like, this is just categorically not who I am. And instead of doing it because everyone else is on it, or I could potentially meet some rich venture capital, like helicopter owning successful businessman because I'm on Riot, I was like, I don't really care about any of this, you know?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. I think finding people that you are fully aligned with, you're going to meet them doing the things you love doing. And when you do the things you love doing, it attracts other people that love those things, and it attracts the right people that are a better fit. So I'm a huge fan of that, but I know that it is such a huge part of our culture and so many people do use them, and there are plenty of success stories from them.
Yeah, my best friend is getting married to the love of her life and they met on Tinder.
Exactly. So I think that's great, but I think just in terms of the mental health aspect of it, it is, you have to be so in such a good place.
Yes.
And you don't need to be going there to get validation or affirmation. You need to be secure in yourself, and you need to know that in terms of handling the rejection or the ghosting, every no is getting you closer to the right yes. Every no is a yes to something better or leaving space for that. And so to not take it's so hard because it is rejection and you feel it on a cellular level and it's painful. But to know that it's not my person and to just have that perspective of it, I think is really important.
Yeah. And here's another interesting phenomenon that we're seeing in the research and the way that people are operating is that we have this shiny object syndrome. You might actually physically, emotionally like somebody, but then because of social media, because of dating apps, because of the way that we have access to so much resource all the time, that we start to think, is there somebody better out there, right? And the thing is, you can always think that.
Yeah.
No matter who you're dating. I mean, unless you're dating, I don't know, Aaron Taylor Johnson. Even then, I'd probably be like, but could I be dating, I don't know, Liam Hemsworth or something? You know, your mindset, there can always be somebody, quote unquote, better. But I think the truest act of, I don't know, God is to really cultivate the relationship that is right in front of you. You know, I think that that's such a beautiful part of our human existence, is that we get to deepen our roots with one person and one person only until hopefully the end.
Which just comes back to gratitude and being fully all in where you are. And if you're always looking left and right and comparing or thinking the grass is always greener, you know, the grass is greener where you water it.
Yeah, cool. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, we have another one here. Dear Nicole and Julie, sometimes when I truly think about it, the thought of AI and the internet as a whole really scares me because I feel like things are getting worse and it feels like we're all becoming brain dead zombies to these devices that control us. Do you think we're doomed, or do you think there's hope for us in the future? P.S. I'm pregnant.
Yeah, I can see why you'd be worrying about that if you're having a child, because I could see how you'll be worrying about the future generation.
Congrats.
Congratulations. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you first.
Know, I think with the advent of every new technology, people freak out. Yes. And so it was the same thing when the printing press and books other than the Bible came out, people were like, this is going to destroy our minds. Like, which is so funny to think that people thought books were harmful at one point. And now it's like books are so essential for learning. And new ideas with the invention of the internet, with the invention of social media, with now AI. It's like with each level, there's a freak out. And the thing with panic and fear is that actually prevents your ability to think clearly. So what you need to do is stay calm, right? And then just assess. We know that there are tons of positives, i.e. getting to connect with people from across the world that you never would otherwise be able to connect to, our ability to communicate with you right now. There's incredible positives. And then there are some downsides in ways that it is shaping our brains and our behavior. So I don't think we're doomed. I think we are smart enough to pay attention and figure out how to use them. But it does require being intentional.
I love that you said, I do believe that we're smart enough, because I really believe that. I think there's this naturalistic fallacy to think that anything that comes in, as you said, is damaging or it's scary and it's going to ruin us. I truly believe that we're, as natural humans, we're beings, we're part of the universe, the world, all that is natural. And I do think that we're smart enough to be able to come back to that. And I'm seeing it with the younger generation, actually, which is maybe surprising to some people. The girl that edits for me, she's 16 years old, and she hasn't got any social media. Neither do her friends. They are actually present in everyday life. I actually went for a big dinner with her and her family the other day. There was about 20 of us, and all of the teenagers were sitting there actually talking to each other, and not a single one had checked their phones once. And I thought that was amazing.
I love that so much.
I feel like us as millennials, we're probably in that in-between phase where we're probably like a little bit more used to reaching for it. I don't know, but that, again, this is just my opinion. And the other thing is, when I go down to the beach, I see loads of teenagers and young people playing Uno. And I think that that's so great, because I do think that it's not normal. And I think that we do know that something is not inherently good for us in excess, right? And I think that that's why we are starting to divert back to our natural roots.
Yeah, I think we've seen the pendulum swing of like being excited and everyone's using it and all the possibilities, and then getting very addicted to it and seeing just the downward spiral of that. And then we're kind of coming back to the other side. It is encouraging to see younger generations pushing back against it. And just, I feel even amongst myself and my millennial friends, like craving a simpler life, craving in person, craving nature, and just wanting to be less busy and less connected. And I know I've really been craving that a lot, and been making shifts in my life so that I can do that. And so it's really encouraging to feel like there is this movement. So no, I don't think we're doomed. And I think we absolutely are finding ways, and people are coming up with, whether it's, you know, have you heard of the light phone?
No.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with this product. It's like, oh, this new product is actually something that does less. Like it doesn't do email, it doesn't do internet, it doesn't do things, and I want to buy that. Like,
totally.
I want just an iPod that just plays music, or a camera that just takes pictures, not one device that does everything, because it's so like then it's that one cue, and the strongest cue is to go to the most addicting or rewarding thing, as opposed to like, I picked it up to check the time or the weather, and then all of a sudden I'm deep in a scroll.
It's like that classic meme of that woman who's like scrolling and then her friend's like dying in the background and she's like, oh yeah, she like forgot that she had to call 911. It's so true. Like, I do that all the time. I'm like, I just want to check the weather, and then next thing I know, I'm like, I don't know, in a scroll.
It's just the challenge of having a one device that does too many things, but you only have one cue. I love the idea of separating these things out and having just things be simpler. And so it's just funny, to your point of, I think we're making our way back, we're reverting back. It's like you can see that even reflected in our technology. And there's been a rise in people buying digital cameras, and I'm trying to revive my old iPod to see if it'll still work. So.
I have an iPhone X on my phone that I use for the gym, and I use for going for a walk, so that I don't have to have my phone with me, which, by the way, I did this post about that and it went viral. I had like 3.5 million views on it.
Wow.
And so many angry people saying, I cannot leave my house without my phone. Now, I want to ask the question, yes, of course, safety always first. If you live in a place where you don't feel safe, then of course take your phone with you. But how much of that is actually driven by your thought that you might have an emergency? How often do you actually call for an emergency? And then a lot of people saying, I've got children, and so I have to be available at all times. Can you let your partner, your mother, your cousin, somebody, 1 hour, even once a week, to just help you disconnect? Is that how badly attached we are to these extensions to our bodies that we can't even fathom life without it for 1 hour? And I say that because I had a comment that was very negative, like, I can't do this, no, I've got all these excuses. And then a day later came back, same person, I didn't reply, said, you know what, I've actually had time to think about it, and I think you're right. I think that a lot of it is just me not having a fear of being separated from this thing that's with me all the time, because it's a form of comfort.
Parents have been raising children without cell phones or constant communication for centuries.
Right.
At this point, we were raised even without cell phones, and our parents, we were fine. We figured it out, right?
Yeah.
So I think
get a landline, get a spare phone.
There's ways, and I'm not saying go hike, the
of
Grand
course,
Canyon by yourself someplace dangerous. It's like where
without anyone knowing you are, no phones,
right? But like if you're in a populated, or if you're going for a walk around the park where there's other people around, if there's a true emergency, someone could call for you, or be smart, right?
Yeah.
But I think just the pushback is because it is such a safety blanket.
So I definitely encourage anyone who is thinking about doing this. If you don't have a problem with your phone, then of course don't take any of this advice. Keep scrolling. Yeah. But if you're listening to this and thinking, wow, I really get triggered. I get anxious when I think about my life without my phone. I get triggered when I hear you talking about this conversation. Then really that's a invitation to self-inquiry. Totally. Have a real think about this, and think about ways that you can start separating yourself from your phone. You don't need it when you go to the toilet. You don't need it when you go for a bath. You probably don't need it when you go for a walk. Asterisk to that statement.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying about the gym. I go to the gym. I've got this iPhone X that just has my music on it. That got, you just said about the iPod. Get an iPod if you can. And again, if you can go to the gym and listen to music and not scroll, great. But if you find yourself mid-set in a scroll hole and you're like, wow, I'm wasting an hour and a half at the gym when I could be doing this in 40 minutes, then, find ways around it, because there are ways around it.
Yeah, and it's baby steps. It is just like when you're home, say you're cooking or eating dinner, leaving the phone in the other room, or when you're working on something, if you work from home, putting it in the other room. It's like these baby steps of just a little separation is so healthy, and work your way up. But I love that.
Dear Nicole and Julie, I'm afraid to be alone with my own thoughts. Whenever things get quiet, my mind spirals and I feel overwhelmed by memories, worries, and self-doubt. How can I learn to feel safe in my own head? Right, I love this question because I actually did a reel recently, which again went viral, and it was about how the default mode network, which is your kind of default mode of thinking in your brain, is essentially a place that we start to push away, and we keep ourselves busy so that we don't have to access it. And that's where ruminative thoughts reside, negative self-referential information. The problem is that the more we push it away, the more it kind of like brews, like a nasty bacteria that's just kind of multiplying, and you're not checking that petri dish. But I think, the way that I describe it is the default mode network is like a garden, and if you don't spend time in it, it's going to overgrow. The weeds are going to be overpowering everything. it's just not going to be a nice place. Whereas when you start to slowly chip away at it and pull out the weeds and plant the flowers, water the grass and cut the grass, it eventually becomes a place that you don't mind being in, and eventually can even be a place that you prefer to be in. And I think that that's such a great analogy, because I think it can feel scary when you're in that space to think that you have to sit with your own thoughts. Okay. But it's like chipping away at it slowly and cultivating, building this brain that is your friend. And that takes time, it takes effort, it takes tools, which we'll give you some tools now to help you do that. So do you have any tools that come to mind?
Well, I first just want to respond to this idea of the fear that comes up.
Yeah.
Of it's like being afraid of what's there. It's almost like your bank account. You're like, I don't want to look. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what's happening. Like, better to not know, but better to know.
So they did this amazing research study where they looked at the stock markets in 2008, and essentially when the stock market was low, people didn't want to log into their accounts and have a look. It was called the ostrich effect. You bury your head in the sand, quite literally. When the stock market was high, people were checking, wow, look at my account. This is amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah. The only time that people were checking their accounts was when it actually crashed, and then they had to, right? So it's like we only respond to negative information when it's absolutely dire, when it's like you're at rock bottom, right?
Yeah, so it's like you don't want to wait to the point of having a breakdown. Or being burnt out, or really getting more severely into things like depression or anxiety. You want to be tending that garden, and I love this idea of making your mind a safe space, a place that you enjoy, a place that is comforting and enjoyable. The first thing I would do is just try being alone for a short period of time and just see what comes up and just be curious. So it's shifting from fear to curiosity and just being like, I wonder what's there.
Yeah.
And so it just helps get you in, again, a mindset of curiosity rather than fear, because fear will close you off.
And also understanding that you are safe. When there's real danger, then of course you can't slow down, because you have to fight or flight, run, whatever. But when you're with your own thoughts, even though it's so scary, there's this element of you are actually safe. Nothing's going to happen physically to you, right? And I think that that's so important to understand that, yes, it's scary, but there's no imminent danger. And I think discerning that is important.
Yeah. And then I think the second piece is that you are not your thoughts.
Yeah.
So that whatever thoughts do come up or whatever is there that you may not have been avoiding, that's not you, and you don't have to identify with it, right? In the same way that you can say, I also love this shift in language, instead of like, I am afraid, of just like, I feel fear. Yeah. So that way it's a feeling, it's transient, it's something you're experiencing in this moment.
Which we're supposed to feel.
Right, and it's good and healthy to feel all spectrum of emotions, positive and negative, or comfortable and uncomfortable. So it's just like, what's there? Let's be curious. And I think just even for me, again, getting it on paper, writing it down, you don't have to be journaling, but just like, what's even in there, right? And then when you can get it on paper and it's outside of you, even more separation of like, this isn't me. And you can see it a little more objectively when you say it out loud or see it written.
I'm going to add one more layer to that, and that, I get a lot of questions around intrusive thoughts, and that is your brain just trying to understand what would happen in a particular scenario. So I think people get intrusive thoughts and then they get really scared, thinking that they're actually going to act upon them. But actually it takes a lot of, firstly, action potentials for you to get to the point where you're actually going to enact the thing you just thought. But let me tell you, as somebody that is happy, like my mind is great, I love being in my own space and I love being alone, I still get intrusive thoughts. I'm like, imagine I'm driving, I'm just like, I'm not going to do it, but it's your brain is a prediction machine, and it's trying to take into consideration any potential outcome, because that's our form of control. It's kind of, quote unquote, a good thing that your brain is kind of thinking like that, because it's curious. It wants to know, like, what would happen if I just did this?
Right, it's testing scenarios.
It doesn't actually mean you're going to do it.
Right. Yes. I think there's a spectrum there too, right, of being in a healthy place. And I think it's great to know that that isn't something so abnormal, right? That it's, even when you are healthy, that can be a part of a healthy brain.
And I'm saying that because intrusive thoughts can be very scary. And of course they're on a spectrum. They can be funny and they can be really, really, just terrifying. But the point I'm trying to make is that you are not your thoughts. That you can have these thoughts and be separate from them. They don't have to control your actions thereafter. You know, they can kind of just bypass.
The other thing is giving yourself the opportunity to even be alone with your thoughts, because we have these little glowing rectangles in our pockets or on us at all times. It doesn't really give us the opportunity. So to be intentional to have that, and I think the best time to do that is in the morning when you're first waking up, to just give yourself a few minutes if you can, ideally 30 minutes to an hour before you're going to touch your phone. But if you're just easing into it, what are your first morning thoughts, right? And then also recognizing that you have the agency and the power over those first thoughts to shape them, to shape your day.
I love that. I love that so much. I can't stop scrolling on my phone at night, even though I know it's ruining my sleep. I tell myself just 5 more minutes, but before I know it, hours have passed and I'm exhausted the next day. How do I break the cycle and finally get some rest? Revenge scrolling. Such an important topic because I think we're all slaves to it. Unless you've got good habits and boundaries involved, it can be really easy to fall down the slippery slope of going down this route.
One of the things that I have started doing, and this is great because I have my main floor, I started leaving my phone downstairs, and then when I go up to get ready for bed, I would charge my phone in the bathroom overnight so that it wasn't in my bedroom. But even that, it was like as I was brushing my teeth and doing my wind down routine, it was right there. And then when I'd wake up in the morning again, it's right there.
Yeah.
So just having it fully downstairs was really helpful to be like, and I have a little alarm that would be like, all right, it's time to put your phone, like charge it and put it up. So I think just eliminating the temptation, it's like your environment is going to win out over willpower every single time.
Yes.
So setting up your environment is key. And so the things that have been most helpful for me are trying to have a timer. When that goes off, putting it up there and then leaving it so that I physically can't.
Yeah.
But I don't know ways to do it where you have it right there and are gonna just stop. It's like,
no, because your willpower is limited, and of course we can train it, and the way that we train it is by doing hard things. So let that be step number 1. Do the hard thing and leave it downstairs, leave it in the kitchen. Again, that post I wrote about leaving it in the kitchen, and the internet went crazy. Like, how could you leave it so far away? Why would I want to do that if I had an emergency? But that's how it begins. And here's the other thing, is that we have something called attentional captures, as you know. These attentional captures mean that your brain is always going to divert to the most interesting thing. If there was somebody exciting in our environment, your face is going to divert to want to look at them if they're dancing or doing something. And so it is with your phone, but like 10x. Right? So if your environment is neutral and then you've got this thing that's quite literally glowing, both metaphorically and physically as well when it lights up, is your brain is going to divert its attention to that thing every time, and then every time you ignore it, you have to divert it back. You're using cognitive resources every single time to tell yourself not to grab the thing, right? And that's
exhausting. So earlier you told me this story, and I just thought this was such a great example of a positive way to use ChatGPT to help you see more clearly or just reflect a situation back to you to process it. So I love this example, and will you talk about it?
Okay, so my friend, she was dating this guy who was just breadcrumbing her to the max. I mean, just no follow through, stood her up a couple of times. They were supposed to go away together on a weekend away. And I was terrified for her because I don't want it to get to Friday and he just either doesn't turn up or cancels on you. And now you've booked this place, you've gotten excited. It just doesn't feel to me like this guy's actually going to turn up. And the last thing I want is for you to be hurt, especially when the stakes are so high, right? Yeah. So I was visiting her and I could see the whole picture. I mean, I've been there so many times where you think that the unavailable guy is actually just busy. Let me tell you, friends, he is not busy. He's not busy. But she hasn't dated a lot, and this was one of her most prominent experiences. And I was sort of saying to her, I was like, look, I can see from the outside looking in, like, this ain't bueno. We need to take control here because I don't think it's going to go the way you want it to. And I'm not a strong pusher into, making people do things, but she's my best friend, and I could see it so clearly. And I was like, this one I feel very strongly about. She came around and she was like, yes, I actually agree with you. We sent him this message saying, look, thank you so much, but actually it doesn't feel like you are very, consistent, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, her mindset starts changing. She starts to see that actually his true colors are showing. The way she's framed it, her bias is changing, and she's starting to see clearly a kind of like situationship clarity. Mm-hmm. And we decide to plug the conversation into ChatGPT to give us a breakdown of the dynamic and the conversation starters, like how is this relationship been showing? And ChatGPT basically told us that she had initiated the conversation 183 times. She asked him out on a date or initiated the idea of them seeing each other or hanging out or interacting, even just messaging as well. Guess how many times he initiated a date? Twice. And then the report said, but in those 2 times out of 183, there was no follow through. So it was very ambiguous. And that ambiguity is the worst thing that people can experience, because it's worse than a no, because at least it's that kind of like, will I, won't I, that door is half open. Gross.
A fast no is better than a maybe.
Right?
Any day.
And when she saw it, she was like, oh, a little bit ashamed, embarrassed, and I was like, please don't be embarrassed, please don't be ashamed. We have all been there, I've been there, and this is why, as your best friend, I was trying to tell you from the outside looking in, I can see what's going on here, and it ain't cool.
Well, and she's learning, right? You said she hasn't dated a lot, so it was good learning for her to see reflected back so objectively.
Yeah.
Look at how much more effort you're putting in than the other party.
Right. And if anything, that shows us that she's a woman who knows what she wants, right?
Okay.
But the point we're trying to make is that we can use AI to our advantage. Now, asterisk to that statement, because I actually ChatGPT'd my last situationship, which is a strong determinant to tell you whether you should be in this relationship or not, because if you're having to plug your relationship into ChatGPT, that's already a hell no. I mean, look at my boyfriend right now, I've not once asked ChatGPT for advice, and that to me is the biggest green flag, right?
The thing is, though, is that we have to remember, too, is that we are biased and we're putting our own bias into ChatGPT.
Exactly.
So we're only presenting our side of the story, and so we can skew things
100%.
how we want it to see it. We are seeing things through our lens, and when we feed it in there, we have to be mindful to even to prompt it to say, is there an angle that I'm missing? Give me another perspective. And it's, I found it's not very good at that. There's always an asterisk. There's always a proceed with caution. Nothing is foolproof, and it's not a human.
I think when it comes to those things, use it to get some clarity, but don't base your entire understanding of a situation on this model.
So maybe this is a better clarification. Use it to quantify things. Like, it was really good at combing through a large conversation and saying how many times a certain thing happened. So use it to give you, data. But in terms of what should I or shouldn't I do, that's you. You don't want it to interpret for you, and you need to keep using your brain for that.
100%. I love that. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I love this. I think I need to get you in like every month.
This is so fun. Such good questions, and I mean, really important things to be thinking about.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Please drop them all in the comment section. I have a Dear Nicole Dilemma on my Instagram, so just drop all your questions in there. I try and sift them through. I'm categorizing them, so if you haven't heard from me yet, it's because that category and topic of conversation will be upcoming, and I will answer your question at some point. So guys, thank you so much. I'll see you all next week.